Recording. All right, hello everyone. Welcome to our Blue STEM author chat. Today we have classes all from Illinois, all around Illinois. We have students from Greenbrier Elementary. We have students from Liberty School, from High Point School, and from Cloverdale School, where I'm at. My name is Kim Hazel Redden. I am the Blue STEM Publicity Co-Chair. Heather Cribbs is the other co-chair who is not here today. And then we have Carolyn Kinsella. I'll let her introduce herself.
I'm Carolyn Kinsella. I'm hosting today, and I'm the IL Executive Secretary, and wonderful to see everyone.
Hi, Carolyn.
And the reason why we're here today is because we have one of our nominated authors, the author of 1,000 Questions. We're so fortunate from Texas to have author Saadia Faruqi, and I'm going to turn over to her to introduce herself, and then we'll start with some student questions. So I'll send it over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Saadia Faruqi. I am the author of a lot of different books, including this one that you might have read, 1,000 Questions. And this book is actually set in Karachi, Pakistan, where I was born and grew up. So it's got a lot of my memories and my childhood, favorite activities and foods and things like that in there. So I hope you enjoyed it, and let's get started.
All right, thank you. So we have a lot of students here who have a lot of questions for you. So we're going to start with Ms. Napoli's class. So you can go ahead and have your first student ask a question.
Okay, this
Tell
is
me your
Lily.
name when you ask a question too.
My name is Lily, and what made you want to be an author?
Oh,
Oh, that is a great question. You guys are just hitting it out first off with the questions, huh? I never thought I would be an author. I always loved reading ever since I learned how to read, and I loved writing. You could see me even as a, I don't know, second or third grader having these notebooks where I would write my own stories, and I kept them hidden. I didn't share them with anyone. As I grew older, my notebooks grew and grew and grew because I would finish one and start a new one. But I never thought this would be a job. I didn't know this was a real job. I don't know why. And it was only when I got married, I moved to the US, I had kids, and I had other jobs. I thought, you know what, maybe I should try this and see what happens. Other people write stories, why can't I? So I gave myself about a year and told myself that if I'm successful, I'll go for it. Otherwise, I'll kind of think of it as, a dream that didn't get fulfilled. But guess what? I did get published, and then it kind of made me want to do more and more. But it was never my goal. It was never even in my dreams. One of the reasons I like talking to kids like you is because I want all of you to have those dreams and not think that something is so weird or unusual or out of your control that you can't even do it.
Thank you. Who's next?
All right. Out of all, right, my name's Weston, and I just had a question. Out of all the books you've made, which one do you think would be your favorite one?
Oh, am I allowed to have favorites? I feel like they're all my creation. It's like asking your mom who their favorite kid is. Do not ask your mom that. Don't really have favorites, because even if it's small books like my early readers, the Yasmin books, or a picture book, or middle grade novel like 1,000 Questions, I feel like the amount of love and effort and creativity I put on it is the same. I will tell you that probably one of the most special books is this one, 1,000 Questions. And the reason is, like I said, because it's set in the place that I grew up and I was born. So I have these feelings and emotions for my birth country I don't have for any other place, even though I've lived in the US now for much longer than I lived here. Still, I put a lot of myself and my emotions and my memories in this book. So if you want to know me as a kid or know what my life was like as a kid, this is a book to read. So maybe it's special in that way, but not real favorites in any way. You guys can have favorites. I feel like that's okay. But if for an author to choose a favorite of their books is really, really hard.
All right, so we're going to go to Ms. Sanchez's class. And we'll be
okay,
back.
we have Celine.
Say your name, honey.
My name is Celine.
Way louder.
I know you lived in Pakistan before, but how much research did you do so your writing about Pakistan was accurate?
For this book, I started out thinking I didn't need to do any research because I was an expert, right? I lived there for 22 years, but then I started writing and I realized I didn't need to do research because everything had changed. I lived there more than 23 years ago. So things had changed so much, even places and roads and how things are done were changed. So I did have to do some research. I looked things up. I called up a few of my friends who still live there or relatives and asked them. But most of it was pretty easy to write compared to some of my other books. I didn't have to do that much research because I knew it very well, because there were a lot of my own memories. That's a good question.
Hi, my name is Joe. You have written books of all ages. What is your favorite age to write for and why?
That is another good question. And the favorite questions always get you in trouble because you say something and then the other thing is kind of feeling, and I love all my characters. P.S. I should tell you this. Every good author feels like their characters are real people. So all my characters like Mimi and Sakina, they feel like real kids to me, people that I know and love. So if I say they're my favorite and not say Yasmin, who's gonna get offended, right? So I would never do that. But I really enjoy writing the middle grade level because you can really put a lot of deep, important issues. And those are issues that are important to me. In this book, it's about, what is home? What does it mean if your family is from somewhere else? And those are really important topics and themes that I like to think about and explore. And I want all of you, my readers, to think about and explore. Even things like poverty. What does it mean to be poor in a rich country versus poor in a poor country? What does it mean when your parents aren't together? What does it mean if you miss someone but you don't know whether they even care for you? All of those things are things I can't write if I'm writing for little kids. So in that way, I think this is a good category for me to write, and because I want you all to think of these topics as well.
Thank you. We're going to go to Ms. Gilbert's class. So if you want to have your two students ready to go.
And I do want to say, teachers or anyone who's listening to watching the recording later, all my middle grade novels have educator guides and discussion questions on my website. So, all those important topics, those tough conversations, they're there as a guide for all of you in the classroom or at home if kids want to talk to their parents. Because those are important things to talk about and discuss and analyze. And oftentimes it's a great opportunity to have a book so that you don't have to talk about it in your context. You can talk about it in the context of characters. All right, who's next?
Thank you. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
My name is Riley, and do you get help from other authors?
I get help from other authors sometimes. So two of my books are actually co-written. For example, one of my first middle grade novel, this one, A Place at the Table, I co-wrote with another middle grade author, Laura Chauvin. So I wrote half of it and she wrote half of it. So definitely, we worked on it together. And that was my first middle grade novel. So I learned a lot from her too, because she'd already written those books. And then another book that I wrote, this one, which is my first ever nonfiction that just came out. This one I co-wrote with my mom, who's an educator or used to be an educator. So kind of we helped each other on that. So sometimes that happens. And at other times, might just have one of my author friends read one of my drafts to give me feedback, because I really think that, whenever we write something, we should always get feedback from people we trust who are good writers so that they can give us tips on what works, what doesn't work. Sometimes I do that, not all the time. So yeah. I mean, it's not always, but often enough I do.
Thank you.
I love asking
Thank
for
you.
help. You know what, you guys? Because sometimes we just feel like we know everything, but then we ask for help and we find out, oh, that person has a really good perspective that I never even thought of. So that's really important to do. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Adam. How did it feel to publish your first book?
Oh, when my first book got published, I totally didn't even believe it. I was like, what? So I had written 2 books for grown-ups before I started writing for kids, but it was a long time ago. And my first ever kids book was actually a Yasmin book, which you might have heard of. If when you were younger, you might have read some of them. And that was Yasmin the Explorer. And I love telling this story to younger kids. You guys probably won't ask, I'll tell you anyway. I wrote that first story for my daughter. It wasn't published. I didn't think it would get published. I just wrote it for her because it's based on her. Yasmin is kind of like my daughter. Once I wrote it, I thought, let me see if it gets published. I didn't really think it would. I was just taking a chance. And then not only did it get published right away, it got so many good reviews. And when that one, Yasmin the Explorer, was on one of, I think, the Monarch list in Chicago, in Illinois. So I was blown away by how much people liked it, how much people talked about it and promoted it. And all the time I'm going, what? This is just a story about my daughter and my family. How is this possible? So the first book kind of was very surreal to me. Now I'm used to it. I'm like, oh yeah, I write books. Hope people read them. So it's kind of, you get used to people liking what you put out, but that early days was very strange. Sometimes you don't really put importance on yourself or give credit to yourself. So you can't believe that someone would really like what you do. But I'm so grateful that all of you readers really appreciated my work, so I could write more.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. We have a couple questions here from Cloverdale. So go ahead.
My name is Claire, and I was wondering what inspired you to write 1,000 questions.
So if you read the book, the question is what inspired me to write 1,000 questions. If you read the book, at the end, there's an author's note, and it kind of explains a little bit about that topic. I was visiting Pakistan. My mom still lived there at that time. And I was actually writing another book, but I was taking a break the summer, and I went to visit her because she was in the hospital. And I took my computer with me, knowing that I would get bored. And while I was there hanging out in the hospital with her, because she would be spending time there after a surgery, I just started writing a story. And the reason I wrote that story was because I saw my kids. I have 2 kids. My daughter is 13, she's in middle school, and my son is 16, he's in high school. So this was about a few years before. So my daughter was in elementary and my son was in middle school at that time. And the way that they reacted to the visit was so different from the way that I reacted to the visit. When I went there, it was like coming home after a really long time. Everything was familiar and I was excited and I wanted to meet people again. And for them, it was like, why are we even here? Literally the first thing that Mimi says in the first chapter when she comes and she's like, it's so hot, what is going on? That's literally what my kids said. They were like, why are we here? Why is it so hot? Why is it a stink? Why can't we go back home? It was really interesting to me. I mean, I got annoyed, but I also thought, why are they reacting so differently? And so I decided to write a story about a girl who was like my kid and just explore what it means for somebody who doesn't think of a place as their home, their parents or their grandparents think. And you know what? There's so many of you who are probably like that, or your friends or your neighbors, who are what we call first generation Americans, which means that they're born in this country, but their parents are born in another country. And so when you talk about home, what does it mean? It means different things to different people. When someone asks, what's your favorite food? It's totally different. Or the language you speak, it's different from what you want to speak. So I wanted to explore all of that. And I do that in all my middle grade novels, but this one especially was set in a place where the main character was super uncomfortable and she didn't want to be there. And then show what it's like to be from the same heritage. If you're born, like Sakina was also the same, right? Genetically, ethnically, background was the same, but because she had lived there, it was totally different. How do you become friends with someone who's so different that you can't even speak the same language as them? So I guess all that inspired me to write this book.
Thank you. We have another student. I think your question kind of goes along with what she just discussed, but maybe she can. Go ahead.
What was the biggest challenge writing a book?
You mean this book or any book?
like any book?
I feel like every book has different challenges. But overall, for me, the main challenge is like coming up with a good story. Like I'll come up with an idea. Like for this one, it was, oh, I want to write about kids who go visit Pakistan for the first time and they don't like it. But that's not really a story, right? You have to come up with what we call a plot. There has to be things that happen that are leading to a certain climax, and then the story ends. All of that can be really hard for any author. And so I think for me, that's the most challenging part. I'll come up with awesome ideas and then I kind of get stuck where I'm like, okay, but what's actually going to happen in the story? What are all the details? You know what? After a while, when you're used to being an author, you kind of learn how to do that. You learn how to write a story. Then you know, you just have to spend time. It's difficult. It's kind of, you don't want to do it, but you still do it because that's important for the story. So yeah. I would say that's my biggest challenge.
Thank you. So we're back to Ms. Loizon's class.
Everyone has such great questions, you guys. All right.
So we're back to our beginning class.
All right. You could go ahead and ask yours, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm David, and what's your favorite genre to read?
Oh, when I read books, when I was a kid your age, I used to love reading fantasy and also historical novels. I loved history. I know, it makes me weird. That's how I am. Now I read more realistic fiction like I write. The important thing for a writer also is to read the kind of books you write. So because I write realistic fiction, it's important for me to keep reading books like that too. I don't like reading fantasy anymore. I don't know why. I used to love it when I was a kid.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Layla. My question is, how long does it take for you to write one book?
Oh, totally depends on the book. I mean, you know, if it's a little book like a Yasmin story or a chapter book, obviously it doesn't take that much time. A middle grade novel can take much longer. I'm a really fast writer, which I know when I talk to my other author friends, they often take way longer to write than I do. I think my first draft from, you know, to the time I have a good story idea and the plot written and I sit down and I start writing, I can write, you know, in a couple of months I can be done, which I've heard is fast. I don't know, for me, it's normal. But then you guys know, or if you don't know, please remember, first drafts don't get turned in ever. No matter how good you think you are, you never turn in when you're done. You do a lot of revision. So I go back and I revise myself, then I send it to my editor. She sends back or he sends back editorial notes. And then sometimes it's like deleting all the chapters, like from chapter 5 onward. And I'm like, no, I spent 2 months doing this. What are you talking about? But revision often means cutting everything you wrote and rewriting it. It can take months. It can honestly take months. There's a lot that happens in a book that's not in my control. Like a publisher spends a lot of time on making the cover and doing copy edits and doing marketing. So ideally, from the time that a book gets started to the time it actually gets published and you guys can read it, can be anywhere between 2 to 3 years. Most of that time, I'm not really actively working on it, but I still have to wait for it to get done by other people, which can be, you know, a pain. But
Thank you, bye.
thanks.
My name is Farah, and I have a question. When you sold your first book, why did you want to keep like writing more books?
That's a good question.
You know, that is a good question because oftentimes if you do something and you like doing it and it ends up being a success, I don't think anyone would really want to stop, right? If I had not been successful that first time, maybe I would have given up, but then I realized, hey, I can do this. The first book though, because it was a Yasmin book, it actually started out already as a series. When I sold it, my publisher said they want me to write 4 Yasmin books. And if they do well, then they wanted me to write more later. So it became like I had to do more because I had signed a contract saying it would be a series. And now there are 20 books in the Yasmin series. I can't even believe that. Oh my gosh. So when a book is successful, then you get to write more. And if a book is not successful, which means people don't read it and don't appreciate it and don't write reviews about it, and they don't get put on any book list like you guys did with my book, the publisher says, oh, we don't want you to write any more books. But if any of those things happen, then I get to write more books. I mean, I want to, right? I think I'm doing a good job. I feel like it. So why not?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, we're going to Miss Sanchez's class.
Oh,
Sorry.
So we'll try to get back around.
okay, we'll start with you next time.
I'll talk fast.
Hi, my name is Quinn.
Go
Hi,
ahead.
my name is Quinn, and I have a question. Who's your favorite author?
I'm my favorite author. That's a hard question. I read so much and I read a lot of authors, so it's hard for me to kind of choose. Again, all the favorite questions I find really hard because I'm not that kind of person who has just one thing that I like. I know that one of my favorite ever writers in the world, like, you know, especially when I was growing up and I was getting inspired about writing and wanting to be a better writer myself, was this guy who's long dead now. His name was William Shakespeare. He was English and he wrote the most amazing plays. And I really learned about how to write stories that transfixed you and made you just kind of like want to read more because of his plays. And you know, I just kind of I still go back to those and think about them and how they made me feel as a reader, and want to do kind of like that for my readers as well. So look him up. He was pretty cool. I mean, you guys would know him. He wrote things like Romeo and Juliet. That wasn't even his best work. I mean, most famous, but you know, there are way better plays than that one.
After Ms. Sanchez's next student, then we'll go to Ms. Gilbert's class. And Ms. Gilbert, have your next two on ready to go. So Ms. Sanchez's will go back to you for your next student. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Liam, and besides writing, what are some of your other hobbies?
Oh my God, I'm such a boring person. I love reading. I honestly love reading so much. I have to read every single day, which my kids complain about, but I just lock myself in my study and I'm like, this is my reading time. No one disturb me. I love taking naps, which, you know what, you guys are too young to appreciate naps, but when you get my age, you will understand how important naps are. I also like watching Netflix a lot, and I like taking walks. So I'm not like a super, like, you know, active person, but I love walking. So
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you. So Ms. Gilbert's class, your next two.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Kamar. What will you do if you win the Blue STEM Award?
Oh my gosh. First of all, I will thank you guys very much. You know, it will just make me feel really good, obviously, because it means that my book like resonated with a lot of you. And I also, it will help me, give me an opportunity to share the story with others, because you know what happens when a book gets an award? It gets more people to hear about it and to learn about it. And I think that the topics I write about are important topics. So I think that it will be a way for me to promote the story and these topics even more. But I'll probably do like when I hear, I'll do a celebration. I might get a cake. My kids will do something for me. They always do something, you know, like a party, a little party, a home party with like cake and good food.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Colette. What is your favorite Pakistani food?
Ooh, my favorite Pakistani food would have to be biryani. Biryani is this spicy rice dish, and like chicken biryani, but it can be beef, it can be vegetarian. You can put anything in it, you know, all kinds of stuff. But it's made in a really special way, which is super hard to make. So I can't make it myself without it being a total failure. So I know where to buy it from, though. That's really delicious. You guys should try it if you like spicy food.
All right. So we have. Oh,
Can you
sorry. Go ahead.
finish, please? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
So I'm Arabi, so I make biryani too, and I love biryani. It's really nice.
You do. That's pretty cool because it's not an Arabic dish, but I'm glad that you do. And what was your name again?
Khalid in Arabic, Khaled in English.
Khaled. I can say Khaled. Well, nice to meet you, Khaled.
Nice to
Assalamualaikum.
meet you.
I love that. I love that I can find connections with people even when they're like, so far away from me.
All right, so we have
Alright.
2 more questions. Go ahead.
So what book mostly relates to you?
That I've written. I think this one, 1,000 Question, is mostly related to me because it's the place that I grew up, and Sakina, the girl, the servant girl, I put a lot of me in her. I grew up poor, not as poor as Sakina. I didn't work anywhere. I still went to school. But a lot of her feelings that she had about being poor and how unfair her life was. My dad also had diabetes and often was sick. So a lot of Sakina is kind of like I put myself in her. So probably this is the most like me, this book, which was hard to write. It was like kind of like showing your innermost fears and feelings and showing maybe the ugly side of you. But I think that as writers, it's important to be able to show not just the good side, but the bad side of everyone, human nature. And that's what I did with this book.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You ready? One more.
When did you realize you wanted to be a writer?
What was the first question? Right? That was like number 1. The number 1. I feel like I realized that I wanted to be a writer when I was a grown up and I had my own kids, and was always writing these stories, but I never shared that with anyone. But then when my kid was little, I would tell her some of my stories, just like bedtime stories, and she really enjoyed them. So I kind of said, you know what, maybe other kids will like them too, and they did. So here I am.
Awesome, thank you. Well, we actually went around twice for everybody, and we are at the end of our 30 minutes, so it kind of worked out. We all got some questions in. So before we go, is there anything you would like to say or that you want us to know that didn't get covered?
No, I talked about the discussion guides that are available on my website, but I know that some of you guys still have questions. So if you guys want to email me and send your questions, I will be happy to read them and answer them that way. And you know, I hope that with my books, you guys, you understand my mission, which is to help you understand somebody who's different from you, or maybe they're the same as you and you just relate to them. So always read books that are from other cultures, from other backgrounds, somebody who's different from you, because I mean, it can be a really good story. You can have fun, but you can also kind of learn something. So thank you so much for reading 1,000 Questions. I really, really appreciate all of you.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. We really appreciate it. So classes, you can unmute and say goodbye, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. So goodbye.
Oh my gosh, I love it. This is, thank you. Happy reading.
Thank
Keep
you.
reading.
Thank you,
All right,
everyone,
bye,
for asking
guys.
such great questions.
Yes, they did. Bye, everyone.
Okay.